TF2 on the whole is a pretty well balanced game. Most of the unlockable weapons are situational side grades. They play well on certain maps or with certain playstyles, but perform weaker in others while usually still being usable in any situation. But some weapons are ridiculous. They're blatantly broken and not fun to fight, and a select few are what I'd call straight upgrades to their stock counterparts, normally meant to be the all-around best and most well-rounded option to use, and one of those is the sniper's Bazaar Bargain. The Bazaar Bargain is, in my eyes, the best sniper rifle in the hands of even a semi-competent sniper. I consider myself an above-average sniper. I'm not 2-Fort Battlement stupid, but I'm not Highlander Platinum godlike either, and I've been able to get some pretty insane use out of the Bazaar Bargain for a very simple reason. It's a snowballing weapon. Once you get 2 headshots, it's as good as stock, and every headshot from that point on is just a bonus that makes the gun a straight upgrade with no downsides. Now, there are 2 kinds of snowballing weapons in TF2, what I like to call soft snowballs and hard snowballs. A soft snowball, for example, would be something like the Diamondback or the Frontier Justice. It's not on a timer like the Buff Banner, the Kritzkrieg, or the Flog. You can hold on to your crits for as long as you want, but they do cap out after a certain point, you lose them on death, and they will run out if you use them all. The Frontier Justice, I would say, is a well-balanced soft snowball weapon, because once it runs out of crits, you have a very severe downside by way of having your clip halved. This is even a detriment while you have the crits because it means you can't just go on a spree, you need to pace yourself. On top of this, getting the crits means you have to exit your comfort zone as engineer. You need to destroy your sentry or else have it be destroyed and go on the offensive, dramatically changing your playstyle in a way that not a lot of players can adapt to quickly. Meanwhile, the Diamondback has a pretty meaningless downside of a 15% damage penalty, and that's it. It's basically a straight upgrade to the stock revolver because the damage penalty isn't punishing enough to make it a major downside, and if you just do the only 2 things you can really do as Spy, it turns you into something between a sniper and a scout in terms of sheer power, and you don't have to change a thing about how you play. Hard snowballs are something that gives your class a permanent upside that lasts as long as you stay alive as a reward for killing enemies. Examples of this are the Airstrike and the Eyelander. Once again, the Airstrike is what I would call balanced. If anything, it can feel underwhelming. You have very real downsides in terms of less damage and lower explosive radius while rocket jumping, but if you manage to get 4 kills even with these downsides, you get 8 rockets total in your clip, which is pretty insane. And with an increased fire rate on rocket jumps, the burst damage you can potentially accomplish with this is pretty nuts, and it's also really fun to punish enemy soldiers who pop you in the air with it. Meanwhile, with the Eyelander, once you get 2 heads, which is pretty easy on demo night considering you can pretty easily one-shot every class in the game besides a heavy by simply right-clicking and then left-clicking in their general direction, it's a straight upgrade. You have a permanent health and speed buff that can even transfer over if you switch your shield and boots out for your actual explosive weapons, making one of the strongest classes in the game even more unstoppable. There's a very good reason that Eyelander Demo Knights can seem unkillable sometimes. The health and speed buff coupled with whatever shield resistances they have and the ability to get out of any bad situation by right-clicking makes them very annoying to deal with for anything besides a Natasha heavy or a level 3 sentry. And with that said, in regards to the topic of today's video, the Bazaar Bargain falls hard into the Eyelander territory. It's a hard snowballing weapon that has no downsides once it's fully or even partially snowballed. Upon getting a headshot kill with the Bazaar Bargain, it increases your charge rate by 25%, up to 200%. But as a downside, you start off with a 50% slower charge rate. This means that at 2 heads, it's identical to stock. And past that, you have a free faster charge, which is a pretty big deal. The stock sniper rifle and some of the other unlockables like the Machina, Hitman's Heatmaker, and the Classic all take 3.3 seconds to fully charge, where they'll do the maximum damage of 450 on a headshot. The Bazaar Bargain, at 6 heads, takes 1.8 seconds. Now, a second and a half difference doesn't seem like that long, but the stock sniper rifle has a small period of time where you deal 150 damage even when the charge meter is visibly going up. And the Bazaar Bargain, by charging so much faster, basically eliminates that, and you do more quickscope damage almost instantly. So 175 HP classes, overhealed light classes, they get destroyed so fast because even though you start off with a slower charging rate, you still do 150 damage quickscopes, which will instantly kill a lot of classes. So getting those 2 heads to bring it back to stock's level really isn't that hard when 5 out of 9 classes can be killed in a single shot. Especially in pubs where scouts run in straight lines and derpy engineers and snipers that hold perfectly still are very common. So you don't even end up playing differently because snipers and medics are your biggest targets and you one-shot them just the same as you normally would. And in fact, even on bulkier targets like heavies, going for 2 quickscopes instead of 1 hardscope is a very effective strategy as it gives you a small degree of mobility and awareness between shots. So, in summary, it means you don't have to change your playstyle at all, which is a trap a lot of the sniper rifle unlocks fall into. It means that dying isn't all that punishing because quickscopes are still very powerful, negating the main drawback of hard snowballing weapons, and it means that even if there are good players on the enemy team, if they also have bad players who are easily headshot, they get punished for this completely outside of their control. This is an issue of all snowballing weapons, even the soft ones. If you're a good player and you recognize that a spy is farming your teammates for free Diamondback crits, or an Islander Demonite is whittling down your entire team and getting away with it, you basically have to tunnel the shit out of them, because if you don't, then they're going to be even stronger when you run into them on their terms. Depending on your unlocks of choice, it might not be so hard to deal with a sniper as a demo or pyro. You can use the lock and load or quickie launcher to get that bit of extra range that means you don't have to spend as much time closing the gap, or you can just use literally any flare gun to put the sniper out of commission for several seconds. And if you want to close the gap, there are plenty of options for that too. But that gets thrown out the window when the sniper can insta-kill you so fast he may as well be quickscoping, and that also applies to another one of the sniper's biggest counters, a rocket jumping soldier. Now, the biggest reason that this fast charge is an issue, besides the fact that there are no downsides, is that having a permanent faster charge makes everything about playing sniper easier. Hardscoping is now twice as fast, so even tanky enemies don't stand a chance against you because the window of time they have to act against you just got cut in half. Even just simply taking time to line up a shot properly while scoped in adds massive damage to what is already a glass cannon class with a high damage output. This has a domino effect in that now you can come out of a scope much more often as your scope charge is effectively disposable, meaning you can be much more vigilant and mobile more often. Spies have a much shorter window to stab you before you come out of your scope to check for them. Even the Vaccinator is weakened by this thing, assuming you're not currently ubercharging with it. The upside of the medic being able to tank quickscopes is largely irrelevant because the sniper just charges so fucking fast. Oh, and if you thought that snipers being able to do 150 damage without even having to hit your head just for standing still long enough was annoying, try cutting that time in half. Yeah, a lot of fully jacked up Bazaar Bargain snipers might not even bother going for headshots when it isn't absolutely necessary, because going for a fully charged body shot is just as powerful as quickscoping, is almost as fast, is easier to hit, and has no drawbacks. Unlike the Hitman's Heatmaker, which is actually very similar to the Bazaar Bargain in that it rewards you with a faster charge time for getting kills, the Bazaar Bargain doesn't give you any penalty for hitting body shots. Oh yeah, and the faster charge time on the Heatmaker runs out after a certain period of time, unless you're constantly getting kills, which you can't even do in MVM because you run out of fucking robots. It's like I said, everything about Sniper is just easier. Everything tanky dies fast, everything frail dies even faster, and after a certain point, you don't even have to try anymore. It is the best sniper rifle for pubs, certainly. Maybe not for Highlander, and certainly not for 6s, just for the fact that you have less heads to shoot at and less people to snowball off of. But in pubs, I'd say it's frankly overpowered. And yet, there's something very interesting about the Bazaar Bargain. No one ever seems to complain about it specifically. There's plenty of people who complain about Sniper now because of YouTubers giving their opinions on the matter, but the Bazaar Bargain, despite being easily the best sniper rifle in the hands of the class that is now widely considered overpowered, just kinda skirts on by, not attracting attention. The closest weapon I can compare this to is the Diamondback, and that gets complained about all the time for basically being a straight upgrade, and deservedly so. But the Bazaar Bargain, despite deserving it just as much, just isn't on people's radar. Why? Well, I think it's an issue of feedback. It's nearly impossible to tell when your death is specifically because of a Bazaar Bargain sniper's faster charge, whereas with a spy using the Diamondback, you absolutely know you wouldn't have died to him if you didn't pull 300 damage out of his ass for backstabbing your Gibbous engineer and sapping his teleporters. With the Bazaar Bargain, not only is the way you play a sniper almost exactly the same, so is the counterplay. It's just less effective because the sniper can kill you faster. Despite how much of a straight upgrade it is, playing with and against it feels almost identical. I'll even notice this when I'm going through my primaries. Like, oh yeah, I have a Bazaar Bargain, and it's festivized and professional killstreak, I spent a lot of keys on that. Is there any reason I want to switch off of stock and use that? Not really. I have the same issue with the Heatmaker and the Machina too. They're so similar to stock that I just kind of feel like, why bother? So really, instead of the Diamondback, I guess this is more like the third degree. It's stock, but better, except it's on a weapon where the stock version is actually good. So how would I fix it being stock, but better? Well, I'd give it a full damage nerf across the board. Enough so that your quickscopes still do 125 so you can counter snipe, but no more. This means that even once you're fully boosted, you still have a downside, and you have to charge up in order to kill medics. Even if it only takes a second, that's more than what the stock rifle gives medics. And really, that's all you'd need to do. This would also mean that the damage is capped at 375 on fully charged shots, meaning you can't one-shot fully overhealed heavies anymore. But I also think that's an acceptable downside. You reach full charge quicker, but do less overall burst damage. And it would still pair really well with the Cozy Camper, which is what I like to use with the Bazaar Bargain now. If you're even a half-decent sniper, there's basically no reason not to use this thing. But I won't pretend that for snipers who end up dying after basically every kill, they won't have a lot more fun with basically any other rifle. Actually, there is one thing this is good for if you're a less skilled sniper: training wheels. Because this encourages a single-minded hit your headshots or else mentality, it's good for forcing yourself to go for headshot kills. You know, at first, until rapid charge body shots become really easy, but if you're not good at sniper to begin with, you won't get to the point where that's an issue for a long time. Some weapons exist in a straight upgrade state, but no one really minds for one reason or another. Maybe the weapon, despite being better than its counterparts, isn't frustrating to fight and makes the class more fun to play. Maybe it's a melee weapon on a class that doesn't get much use out of that slot anyway, and the extra utility they get from it doesn't break the game. Maybe they main Pyro. But for weapons like the Bazaar Bargain, I really don't think that should be the case. It's too much of a reward for just doing what the class normally does. Yeah, I see you over there, Diamondback. Don't think you're out of the woods here, pal. Your day of reckoning is coming.